Shabbat Shalom.
Oh, this is yours?
Nablus. Shall we have a conversation?
Yes.
Let's learn some Torah together. Okay, page 1515. Chana says yes, so it's okay. She gives permission. So page 1515, so this is Deuteronomy, Devarim, chapter 27. 1515 in the Chumashim. Deuteronomy is the valediction of Moses. It's the final speech that he will ever give. It took him 3 days to give it. And as he's giving it, the entire people are camped on the far side of the Jordan River. They're about to cross in. And what's amazing about this, by the way, is the place that they will cross into the land of Israel is right at the ancient city of Shechem, which is Nablus today, one of the oldest inhabited cities in the world. Not only that, but where does Shechem show up in the Torah? That is where Abraham originally comes into the land and sets up his first altar there. And so they're returning back to the place where they started. That's pretty cool. What they're going to do, though, is, I will sort of gently say this, slightly bizarre, which is that Moses says to them, listen, he's like, what we're going to do is there are these two mountains, Mount Har Ebal and Har Gerizim, Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. I want you to go up to Mount Ebal, about a 3,000-foot high mountain, biggest mountain in the area. I want you to take some stones, coat them in plaster, and write the Torah on them. By the way, there's a big debate about how much of the Torah gets written on them. Can you imagine how long it would take to write the entire Torah? The general understanding, at least in the book of Joshua, is that write the entire book of Deuteronomy on them. And it says you should write them be'er hetev, which means very clearly. And the rabbis want to talk about this too. So some say that, it just means have very clear script. But others, and this is what Rashi brings down, he says you have to write them, these words, in 70 different languages. So it's like a Jewish Rosetta Stone. And then what you're going to do is you're going to have people on different sides of the mountain, and then other people are going to pass between. And as you go into the land, they're going to be chanting at you. They're going to be chanting at you blessings, and they're going to be chanting at you curses. And what I want to do is, for some reason, but stick with me, I want to read the curses. Leave now if you'd like. We're on page 1516. This is Parshas Ki Tavo. Deuteronomy 27, verse 15. Can I have a volunteer to read nice and loud into the microphone all of the curses that are being read as the people are passing into the land? I know there were microphones out there somewhere. Brian. Yeah. I was going to say, it's the first time in the history of this congregation that we've been shy.
Okay. Cursed be the man who makes a sculptured or molten image abhorred by the Lord, a craftsman's handiwork, and sets it up in secret. And all the people shall respond.
Amen.
Amen. Keep going?
Yep.
Okay. Cursed be he who insults his father or mother, and all the people shall say,
Amen.
Amen. Cursed be he who moves his neighbor's landmark, and all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who misdirects a blind person on his way, and all the people shall say,
Amen.
Amen. Cursed be he who subverts the rights of the stranger, the fatherless, and the widow, and all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who lies with his father's wife, for he has removed his father's garment. And all the people shall say, Amen.
It's going to get a little something,
okay.
so just prepare yourself.
Cursed be he who lies with any beast, and all the people shall say, Amen.
Seems reasonable.
Cursed be he who lies with his sister, whether daughter of his father or of his mother. And all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who lies with his mother-in-law. And all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who strikes down his neighbor in secret. And all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who accepts a bribe in the case of the murder of an innocent person. And all the people shall say,
Amen.
Cursed be he who will not uphold the terms of this teaching and observe them. And all the people shall say, Amen.
What is going on here? Not rhetorical question. I would love your take about what's going on here. And in particular, is there anything that links all of these different curses together that those who are walking by and listening to them should be paying attention to? All right, we got a few hands. Jamie's over there.
What strikes me is a breakdown of the family and the family unit.
The breakdown of the family and the family unit. Thank you, Clem. Yeah, all right. Yeah.
It seems to me on first glance that somehow they're all related to the Ten Commandments.
You want to say just a word or two more about that?
Yeah, I mean, there's one about murder, there's one about your mother and father, there's they seem to be, in some way, mirroring the Ten Commandments.
Thank you. Okay, beautiful. I think that's right. Real?
I was going to basically say the same thing.
Thanks, Rosalie.
That it's an amplification of the Ten Commandments, and it goes into more detail.
An amplification of the Ten Commandments. It goes into more detail. Very good. A few hands over here.
So they're all very direct, easy to understand, personal, and although written 3,000 some odd years ago, relevant to this day.
Yeah. Anybody disagree? I noticed that no one is raising their. Suzanne disagrees.
I feel like they're all about not prioritizing yourself and what you desire over other people or other things.
Can you say more about that?
Well,
Not prioritizing yourself?
you don't get to do anything you want regardless of how it impacts other people, like your mother-in-law and your sister and the beast and your father's wife, and like it's not all about you, I guess is how I felt.
All right. One or two more. Yeah. David, want to say something, and then Suzanne.
Well, I think Jennifer put her finger on it, but also they all have something to do with becoming a settled people in the land. They have borders, they have property ownership, so don't move the landmarks. They have this system of dividing it up by tribes and by families, so don't mess with the family structure and sort of get your lines crossed. Don't take a bribe to strike someone down. These are all things that you need to sort of live this life that's envisioned for the way they're going to live in the land.
Great. Thank you, David. One more. Suzanne?
It's a very strong affirmation of the heteronormative culture of the time, that they're all assuming that there's a mother and a father, and that any kind of sexual relationship would be between a man and a woman.
Okay. All right, we'll come back to it. We'll do Rishon and Shani, and then I'll come back. Okay.
The first aliyah is Deuteronomy 28, verses 4 through 6, page 1522 in your Chumash.
ויעזור ויגן וישלח לחסים בו ונאמר אמן הכל הבוגד אלוהינו תנו כבוד לתורה תעמוד ג'יימי בנקס חנה יוספה בת פרלו ומלך לעליה הראשונה ברוך שנתן תורה לעמו ישראל בקדושתו ואתם הדבקים באדוני אלוהיכם חיים כולכם היום.
Baruch, Baruch.
Yep, right there.
Baruch Hu et Adonai Hamborach. Baruch Adonai Hamborach Le'olam Va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kirvanu lavodato, v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Amen.
Amen. Baruch privitnecha, ufri admatcha, ufri vehemtecha, shegar alafecha ve'ashterod sonecha, baruch tanacha umishartecha, baruch atah bevorecha, uvaruch atah betzetecha.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher natan lanu Torat emet, v'chayei olam nata b'tochenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Mishaberach imotenu sarif karachav le'av avotenu Avraham Yitzhak v'Yaakov hu yivarech et Chana Yosefa but Fredo v'melech shalta yom lichvod Torah v'lichvod Shabbat v'yom lichvod yom huledet shela. Jamie, happy birthday.
Thank you.
You are a person of grace and elegance that's expressed through kindness and through wisdom and through insight. Jamie is the kind of person who is both an incredible hostess, someone who I think has a deep sense of gentleness and a loveliness about the way she talks. And also, you better be careful what you say to her about communications because she will correct you where you're wrong. I want to say that this Torah portion, as much as it has these curses, it's also filled with blessings. Even though there have been moments in your life that were so precarious and so difficult in the life of your family, the only thing I wish for you in this moment and this year is truly every single blessing that the Torah and that you may provide for yourself. You deserve them all. Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Yeah. I just want to say this was my bat mitzvah parsha, and at the time I was only allowed to read the Haftarah. But I love the first words of the Haftarah, Kumi Ori, which I have always taken as a personal sort of mantra. It means arise and shine, and I love that. And it was also our son Matthew's parsha, bar mitzvah parsha, so it's very special to me.
The second aliyah is Deuteronomy verse 28, verse 7 through 11, again on page 1522.
תעמוד, רבקה מיכל בת דניאל וזהבה לעלייה השנייה. Noah.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך. ברוך אדוני המבורך לעולם ועד. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קרבנו לעבודתו ונתן לנו את תורתו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה. אמן. אמן. ייתן אדוני את אויביך הקמים עליך, ניגפים לפניך, בדרך אחד יצאו אליך, ובשבעה דרכים ינוסו לפניך. יצב אדוני איתך את הברכה, בשמך ובכל משלח ידיך, ובערכך בארץ אשר אדוני אלוהיך נותן לך.
Yekimcha Adonai lo la'am kadosh ka'asher nishbalach ki tishmor et mitzvot Adonai Elohecha ve'halachta b'derachav ve'ra'u kol amei haaretz ki shem Adonai nikra alecha ve'yaruhu mimecha ve'hotircha Adonai letova b'fri v'necha u'b'fri v'hemtecha u'b'fri admatecha al adama asher nishba Adonai la'avotecha latet lach.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם אשר נתן לנו תורת אמת וחיי עולם נטע בתוכנו. ברוך אתה אדוני נותן התורה.
Noya Kara, how do I give you a blessing in this moment?
Just being here is a blessing.
I can't. But I can give you a blessing for the past, and I can give you a blessing for the future. I can give you a blessing for the way that you took care of your beloved husband and the way that he took care of you. I can give you a blessing for a love that defined your entire life and was deeply held. And I can give you a blessing because that love will never go away. It will live in your hearts and the hearts of your children. It will continue to tell the story of who you are and influence that story far into the future. I have no blessing for right now, but I know there's blessing waiting for you around a bend, maybe a little too far to see it in this moment, but it will come. It will come. Okay, we're back. Page 15, 16. So here's what all of the curses have in common, is that they curse actions that are done in secret. Take a look at them. There's nothing here that's new from the Torah. And in fact, what's a little bit odd to all the commentators is that every single wrongdoing here has long been enumerated. There's nothing new. But everything that happens in these curses are not things that happen in public, but they happen in private. Not things that happen in light, but the kinds of things that people wait to do under the cover of dark. Taking of a bribe, moving of someone's property marker. That's what that means, by the way, the landmark. You know, the boundary between property to show what's yours and what's theirs. And of course, the kind of well, I don't think I need to say it. And so it's really interesting to me that at this rather meaningful moment, the moment of class crossing into the land, you'd expect fanfare and a parade, a ticker tape coming down, right? And that the pronouncements would be the kinds of things that you would hear from a campaign stage about how we're all going to move forward together, a restatement of the morals and ideals that we have in common, an exhortation to the kinds of things that we should or not do as a nation or a country. And yet, what Moshe is commanding the people is to remember the kinds of wrongdoings that people do in secret. So the question I have for you at this moment is, what do you think is the relationship between public morality and private morality? What's the relationship between the ideals that we're supposed to pursue loudly and in public and the kinds of doings and wrongdoings that happen in private? And how much, let me put a sort of a real question in there, really, how much leeway does a person have between the values and ideals they espouse and the way that they, perhaps not in public view, live their private lives? I'm asking about hypocrisy. And just to get started, so as you're thinking about this, like, anybody here not a hypocrite? So I think what I'm asking is just for you to reflect on this very human tension between what we strive for as people out in the world and honestly who we really are sometimes behind closed doors. I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. Rachel, you want to introduce yourself too, even though I just introduced you? Okay.
I'm Ann and Bob's daughter, so people know them, they don't know me. I have the really fun job of I teach a class on ethics to master students, and one of the things we were talking about this week is that we should ethically do the right thing as clinicians because it's the right thing.
Ethics to psychologists, right?
Yes.
You teach ethics to
Yeah.
therapists. Yeah.
To people who are going to be psychologists. But we also talk about this idea that you need to do the right thing if no one is watching you. And also some people put other values ahead of their clients or the community. And so there are consequences. And so for my Maryland State jurisprudence exam, I had to know how many thousands of dollars would I have to pay if I violated a certain ethical principle. And so for my students, we think about you should know and you should internalize the difference between right and wrong. But for those who either don't know or another value feels more important, having the public consequence and having your name listed on a website of someone where there's an action filed against you sometimes is enough to deter people who otherwise might have some questionable ethical moments.
No? Yeah, sure. For a second.
I don't usually speak politically, and I will try to keep this apolitical, and I mean this across the entire political spectrum. One of the things that disgusts me the most is people in positions of power, whether it's political power or not, and it's on all sides, who I feel bad for people that if I disagree with you, I disagree with you. But people who we know that they know better, because in private conversations it's been reported that they know better what's the right thing to do for the country, for the people of the country and all that, but in public will not stand up for it.
So the Torah does something very interesting here. It separates the 12 tribes, 6 on Mount Ebal, to proclaim the curses, which is very interesting because did they really set up an altar where it's cursed? And then 6 other tribes on Mount Gerizim, and they're on opposite sides of Shechem. And so one side very clearly is calling out, these are curses, be aware what they are, and these are the blessings, the things that you should be aware of. And I think that separation is very telling.
I think that if there are things that we do in private because nobody's looking or we can get away with it or we have the power, and then we try to be other than that in public, how much that eats away at your soul to have that inconsistency, and how much easier it is to just be a pure person both publicly and privately.
Easier, you say. Why do you say easier?
Because to be able to live that life both publicly and privately, once you start doing it, it just starts feeling easier.
All right, one last comment.
I'm a little bit bothered by this discussion because I don't think life is so clear-cut. I think there are lots of situations where there are competing values, and what you may think is hypocritical, I may not. I may be choosing to do something because I believe something is more important than what might meet your eye. Does that make sense? Am I making that
It
point
makes,
clear?
no, I think that's certainly a fair discussion. I think what's interesting here is that the things that are listed here, I think, are often associated with people in power who allow themselves the permission in private to do horrible, horrible things. Which is, I think, just a different conversation. Because what you're talking about is like, you think that I should be doing X, but I have a competing principle. I think this is like someone would get up on the campaign trail and say, I obviously believe that this is the case, but then we find out about them that their public morality and their private morality are not aligned with one another. Yeah.
I can see that with the examples given here, but with the question you posed, you asked about the
Hypocrisy.
daylight between what people say and what they do. And that's where I think there's some wiggle room there.
Right. So I want you to look at the last of the curses because it doesn't seem to fit. We're on verse 26, by the way. It's a great translation here. It says, cursed be he who will not uphold the terms of this teaching. But the Hebrew is unclear. It says, Yakim, at least, cursed be he who will not lift up. And forgive me for the sexist language. Cursed be he who will not lift up the terms of this Torah to do them. And so what's sort of fascinating by this is that a number of commentators are like, well, what does this actually mean? You know, the rest of them were so specific. Some of them agree with the translation here that says this is just a way of summing it up. And some of them actually say, no, this is its own thing, and you're going to love this one. The Ramban, that's Nachmanides, Spain, 12th century, 13th century, who's only not the most famous Moses because of Maimonides, says that what this means is, what he's talking about is the people who read from the Torah and don't lift it up to show the public afterwards. He's saying that the birth of Hagbah is so that what they would do is so that you would read and you would lift it up so that people would know that what you read was in the Torah. Isn't that crazy? Now, it may be more important in a community where they didn't have books. Right? But what he was saying was that this is a specific thing that you should know, whoever is sort of at the leadership of the community, that what they say is, in fact, what's inside the Torah. We'll come back to it in a second and finish up the conversation. We continue with the Shlishi Aliyah.